Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Homeownership Heroes. I'm your host, Bryan Bergjans.
And I'm Rick Bettencourt, President, NAMB.
And we're joined by a special guest, John Bell III, Deputy Director of Loan Guarantee Service. John, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, John.
Let's get this thing started.
Absolutely excited.
So we are live at the 2019 VA Lenders Conference, and I would like to say that this is considered the Super Bowl for anybody who is serious about working with this demographic.
And what better place to have it than Military City down here in San Antonio, Texas. So bravo for VA, although it was supposed to be in Hawaii from what I was told, right? But what a better place to have a VA conference than down in Military City, San Antonio. Just awesome to be here. So excited.
Yeah, and I'm really excited, too, because this is a great way for anybody who is, like I said, serious about working with this demographic to network with their peers in this industry. I get a ton of content, obviously, from the VA, but I get just as much out of actually getting an opportunity to talk with like-minded professionals.
Well, it's funny. I started coming here about 7-8 years ago, and we only got about 200 attendees. How many did we have pre-registered this year, John?
I had 800 pre-registered. We're showing around 675, 700.
So we had almost an 80% actually retention. So that is unbelievable when you have a free event. And that's the thing, too. It's free.
Right.
It doesn't cost anybody any money to come down here and advocate for your veteran population, your community. This is a free conference with great sponsors like Caliber Home Loans. And you get some of the best content about up-to-date regs, changes, circulars. And we have a whole new slew of regulations coming up pretty soon or changes to the VA handbook.
Yeah, so real quick, John, so for our audience, what goes into the whole content planning for the conference? So for folks out there that are thinking, I might want to come to this, but what exactly, how do you guys put together your agenda and the content that goes into the conference?
9 years ago, I attended my first one, and we had about 50 people inside the interstate, right here in Houston.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. It was really highly concentrated on underwriting, and requirements. We wanted to kind of blow that up, right? We wanted to say, how can we touch the number of program participants that participate in the program, not just underwriters, but SARs, our appraisers, our realtors, even secondary markets. We have them here. We have economists here. We have, so we wanted to broaden that scope so that we could get as much information about VA, and it really didn't matter, where you stood, or what you did in that process. It's just about all of us coming together and improving the process, making this the most competitive program available to veterans.
Well, I would say you blew it up. I mean, you went from 50 and 9 years ago to 800 pre-registered. And, for me, Bryan and I were just talking, this is kind of like Super Bowl, like you said, but it's also a neutral zone. It's a place where everybody in every facet of the business, whether you're a regulator, whether you are an administrator of the benefit like VA, where else can you get a chance to talk to your LPO in your regional loan center and be like, hey, I got a specific question. And so for me, the fact that we could all just essentially play in the same sandbox, have a good time, and get information that we can bring back to who we serve, our veterans. For me, these trade shows, the VA conferences have made me 1,000 times better as a mortgage professional servicing veterans.
Oh, well, you cannot not come to this and say that you're a practitioner in this space, can you?
It's a tough call.
Here's the thing. If you're not here, we're not hearing your opinion, right? And your opinion matters. And, we can always improve. There are things every day we try to improve upon. And that's what's exciting about, one, from my end, and making that transition from being a lender into the government space. The whole reason why I'm here. I came here because I wanted to make this program the most competitive I could. And without your input, it's hard for me to do that. And
there's no way that we're going to get that number shifted like we talked about. Like 15% of veterans use their VA benefit across the U.S. right now. So 85% don't. You're not going to shift that unless you educate and advocate. And what better way to get educated so you can advocate than coming to this?
Yeah, and I will say one thing I thought was a pleasant surprise is listening to the type of individuals that came this year. So I heard appraisers out there, realtors.
Yeah, we had a realtor. That was great. Talk about that because that's the first time in 20 years, right? And it's just the way that it's not because they didn't want to come. It's just that's just the way it bounced every year. And it was really great to have a real estate professional here who specializes in VA talk about her struggles, what she tries to do to help her veterans in her market. I'm looking forward to what John and his team does to kind of grow that in the subsequent years and get more participation from NAR and other real estate professionals in the market. So I'm excited.
So speaking of the realtor, so John, what kind of went into the process with that? So like, did you guys have a brainstorming session and said, you know what, this year we should have a realtor out there on the panel to start talking about their challenges and stuff facing when they're working with us?
Yeah, it's always about, mixing things up a little bit, right? And offering, offering these discussion points that you might not have talked about, or you may be scared to talk about. That's what we really prided ourselves on with this conference is, let's hit those hard-hitting issues that people are scared to bring up and put a forum together where people can speak freely and where we can understand what those real issues are. Because without doing that, how can we fix it?
Right. No, 100%. And I think one of the most important things you get out of this conference is you add clarity to a lot of things that might not be clear.
It's helped, as in my company, a national VA sales leader. For me, I can come down here, I can get great information, take back to our VA team, sit down on a whiteboard and figure out where have some of our deficiencies been, not deficiencies in the sense of our loan files, but where we're not stepping up to the plate and servicing our veterans. Maybe there's been a few loans that we could have approved, or we could have gone a different direction on. And so for me, I'm just note taking like crazy so I can bring it back. And the speakers have been great. Our VA valuation panel, best I've seen in 8 years. Unbelievable. I mean, what a great job they did today too. So I get all excited when I'm down here. I love it.
So real quick. So after the conference is over, you guys take all the feedback. And is that how you guys start basically whiteboarding the next conference?
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, well, two things. One, we see what can we do in the interim, right? What are the things that are all the things on our roadmap that we want to accomplish this next year? Were all those covered, right? Do we have that covered for next year or the year after? And two, as we're planning out next year's speakers and that rotation, what are the things that we need to continue to talk about to continue to flesh out? Because there's some things that were brought up that are big problems, right? And then there's some things that we can tackle with policy. Then there's some things that may need regulation or legislative action, for us to take back. And so it helps us in forming all those opinions and developing that roadmap forward. So, for us, it's invaluable.
Awesome.
That's important too. Is I don't think and that's another episode maybe someday with John or one of his policy directors over there. But 98 to 99% of mortgage originators and being boots on the ground have no idea how VA, the two different channels, the two different ways that you guys can implement policy, or because VA benefits essentially governed by law. But then you have USC, you have CFRs, and I think a lot of people in my shoes just think that you guys can go ahead and take a few pieces of paper and change it and make it done. And then they get frustrated. But coming here, I know the first time I came here, I walked out going, oh my God, it's not easy to do the changes that we all agree need to be made. Yeah. But it's a process. And I think the process helps to add clarity to an originator helping veterans. And
it's crazy you say that, because yesterday actually I was talking to staff about, we kind of joked a little bit, but I'm serious, especially now that I hear you say that, is, when we were little, the I am a bill, thing.
True.
I think that something like that in next year's conference, might find its way in there.
What's the whole theory of it takes an act of Congress to change anything?
Yeah, how does that process work?
And that's literal. Right. That's actual. Yeah. I mean, sure, VA could make some minor changes once they've got legal counsel to agree to it through a circular, but really the guts of it is Congress. It's congressional movement and changes, and that's why NAMB, we are so excited to have this great rapport with VA to try to help advocate where sometimes other people can't. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, you got policy, you got regulation, which regulation we go out with, and then you got legislative action, which Congress will implement. So understanding those three things, I think, is important. You think that these legislative actions or regulatory actions, whatever, don't affect you, but they 100% affect you.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you don't have input into what that is, it could hurt you. Yep. So, the more we get out, the more we have input into that, the better we are.
So I think we can all agree that the VA Lender Conference is where it's at, and you need to be here.
If you're a mortgage professional and you are interested in working in the military community, then this is the only place where I think after years of attending, you can identify yourself as a specialist, because this stuff, there's things that you learn here that you will not learn through a sales manager training, through reading a regulation. You learn things here such as the story, documentation, compensating factors, what it takes, why they say no, why they say yes, and that makes you better.
Hey, what about the CFPB presentation, right? With military service member affairs department going out and doing a study and coming back and saying in 2006, 3 out of 10 first-time home buyers, eligible first-time home buyers, utilized the VA home loan program.
Yeah.
As of the end of 2016, 8 out of 10.
For VA.
It's pretty impressive.
That is extremely impressive.
Using VA.
And we're still, and that, just think about it, we're only at 15% of our veterans using VA benefit right now. Imagine what that number would be if we could flip it. It would be unfathomable. As far as I'm concerned, a lot of veterans.
This has been another great episode of Homeownership Heroes. I'm your host, Bryan Bergjans.
And I'm Rick Bettencourt, and a very special thank you to John Bell, the 3rd Deputy Director of Loan Guaranty.
Thank you.
Thank you.